Hello, parents. Welcome to Toddler Toolkit podcast. We are so lucky because today we have Roxie Alsruhe with us. She is the founder of Hoopty. Hoopty offers a free app that manages and tracks breast milk and baby formula, so new parents never waste a drop. In the summer of 2025, Hoopty will launch a line of patent pending products that automate the milk managing process even more and enhance your app experience. Roxy is a mom to a sweet 15-month-old boy and two senior rescue pups. She's based out of Baltimore, Maryland, and she met me, Heather, in second grade at Cub Run Elementary in Centerville, Virginia. And that just reminded me that we have our 20-year high school reunion coming up in just a few months.
Yep.
And we are part of the Cool Mom Club. So yeah, it's crazy how fast time goes by. Welcome, Roxy. We are so glad to have you here.
Ah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, it's like taking a trip down memory lane, like hearing your voice and everything. But then it's like, oh my gosh, we're moms now. We're not those little kids. I remember when you came into my class in second grade because you were the new kid. You were a new kid, like in school.
I was out of town, moved from, I think, Texas, because I had moved a lot. So I was like super fresh and new.
Yeah, but here you are, recording all those years.
Here we are later. We have toddlers, we have businesses, and we are trying to make a difference in the world for moms. So it is beautiful.
Yeah, maybe it's something in the water where we grew up.
Maybe. Yeah. We're like, we make a difference. And I love how some of the kind of like testing challenging times brings light to like a cause where we just like, even if we're getting like no sleep, we're like, I'm so passionate about this. Like, I'm going to do this thing. I feel like something changes in our brain when we become moms, and that kind of lights the fire for us.
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're right about that.
So, Roxy, tell us a little bit about yourself and what were your experiences as a new mom? And can you share what inspired the idea of Hoopty specifically?
Yeah, so just as, you mentioned, I have a toddler. I just entered into the toddler octagon or ring. So my son's 15 months old, and, it was really right around that 14-month mark. That's when he started walking, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I have a toddler on my hands." He was expressing more opinions in one way or another, a lot of personality coming, a lot of confidence. It was, really cute and exciting to see, and then also mixed with, like, a little bit more challenges that we didn't have before, but I know that the toddler toolkit is gonna come in really handy now that, we're at this point. This morning, I kinda had one of those moments where I was like, "Oh, yeah." It's like, "Where did that come from?" Uh,
Yeah, I totally feel you. We're entering the tornado stage over here, so it's always fresh, So we're always on our toes here. But yes, for sure, it is so wild how like it can sneak up on you. Like they just become a toddler one day, and it's just like, oh, well, there we are.
yeah. But, yeah, so rewinding back to when he was, just 3 days old, we brought him to his 3-day, pediatric appointment, and his provider informed us that he had lost too much weight, more weight than he was supposed to lose as a newborn, which, I don't know if you remember, like, they're like, "Oh, when they come home or when you take them home from the hospital, they're gonna lose a little bit of weight."
Yeah.
They were like, "He just lost too much." And my wife and I were like, "Well, we it was we've been trying." She was breastfeeding him every 2 hours, the typical feeding frequency that, he required. I mean, he was letting us know that he was hungry, and we were feeding him, and so we were just like, "Okay, well, we've gotta make every single drop count," And easy as that. No, I'm just kidding. It was not easy. So what my wife was doing was, primarily in the first few days and weeks, she would chest feed him, and then whichever breast that he wasn't feeding from, she would use a collection cup and collect the milk. And it wasn't until she filled up that first bottle with the milk from the collection cup, and she said to me, "Okay, we have to figure out when this expires." We had never even thought about that before, unlike the milk that you buy at the grocery store, it didn't come with the expiration date, it wasn't pasteurized, and so I was just like, "Oh, yeah, I'll Google it," and here I am, I'm sleep deprived, my hair is, messier than it is right now, and I pull up, the first link that comes up in my Google search is the CDC guidelines. I'm like, "Alright, I got it." Open up, I'm like, "Oh my god," like, how do you expect me to interpret a chart right now? I don't even know what day it is, I don't know what month it is. I was
Oh,
like, "This is just it's too much to be asking right now. Our world's just got rocked. We just had a kid." And my wife was like, I think you could come up with a solution just to make this easier." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever." I was just trying to get, by day by day. We both were. It wasn't long after that, days that I made the unforgivable mistake of leaving a bottle out for it had to have been, like, at least 16 hours. I just forgot about it, I left it in the bed or on our nightstand and found it later, and, at that time, our supply was limited, we didn't have anything in reserves in the freezer, and our son was still underweight, and I was like, "Oh my gosh," like, I just wasted my child's food. And, I think at that point, that's when I was like, "Okay, yeah, I'm going to come up with a solution." And in this day and age, I am one of those people that relies on my phone to tell me where my keys are, where my wallet is, to remind me when I have meetings. And I was like, my phone can tell me when I need to do something about my newborn's food. So I'm gonna make it happen. So he was, 2 weeks old, and I was, started working on this thing. So that's how the hoopty concept, came about.
wow, that is amazing. It's like an extra layer of stress when your child is underweight, or, for example, my twins were under the preemie line, so they weren't even the average, they were below. And, when we have these things, they're losing weight, that formula or milk really matters. And my twins were on formula. I had some issues with breastfeeding, but that was during when formula was like scarce, and there was like it was hard to find it. But when you said like the whole breast milk thing, I'm like, that's like on a whole nother level, because you're really relying on it. And it's not like it's that easy to get that amount of milk. And
Yeah.
funny enough, something
Oh
I
my gosh.
popped up on my Facebook earlier, just moms talking about like spilled milk and everything, and how like big of a deal it is. It was actually like leaking, and it wasn't going into like the cup, or they didn't realize it, and then it's like, oh my gosh, this is so much on top of being sleep deprived, then trying to figure it all out. So, like it really is helpful to have something to be on our side. Like you said, like so many things these days, we have like a tool to help us with it. And this is amazing that you've kind of come up and innovated this idea that follows the CDC guidelines to help moms. It's really, really beautiful. And I'm so excited for you about this. So Hoopty helps parents manage breast milk and formula, so not to waste a drop. And so we already kind of talked about why that is important. We were saying like it's kind of like liquid gold and we need it. But how big of an issue is it, like on top of that? Like, is there anything else you'd love to add about how this can affect families?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's just kinda, like, piggyback a little bit about what you were saying, like, even when formula or yeah, at the time, 'cause that was, like, 2022, right? With the formula?
Yeah, 2021, 2022 was when that
Yeah.
was happening. Yeah.
It was a real thing. So, so for the first 6 months of a human's life, we're only supposed to consume breast milk or baby formula. And, some people will start their kids on solids a little bit sooner, but, I always just say, do you consult with your pediatrician? The, American Academy of Pediatrics and World Health Organization says 6 months is breast milk or baby formula. And you're like, dang, our newborns' food, our infants' food is scarce. It's either what you make, what you're producing, or what you're able to supplement by purchasing baby formula, which has its own levels of scarcity.
Yeah.
Because even to this day, some retailers will only let you purchase so much at a time. And, back in 2021, 2022, the US government was sending Air Force One empty to Europe to fill up the plane with cans of baby formula and bring it back here because the shortage was so severe. So whether it's breast milk or baby formula, you don't wanna waste a drop. It is too precious. It's liquid gold, and it is what your baby's surviving on. So, I think everyone's breastfeeding journey or their baby feeding journey is so different. It's unique to everybody. You've got people that are oversuppliers, you've got people that are just making the right amount, and then you got people that aren't making enough or can't. But regardless of that, it's a full-time job feeding your kid, There's so much time that goes into it. There's so much emotion, and yeah, it's okay to cry over spilled milk because I don't know who came up with that saying, but I really
You're like, it's
haven't felt
accurate.
like yeah. But, for postpartum mothers, it's a very vulnerable time too. On top of the emotion of breastfeeding, there's a lot going on in your body, also environmentally. And the Hoopty app allows you to delegate milk management and the work. I like to tell people, I'm like, this app, we're also trying to save mom some sleep and save your relationship because, if mom's like, I'm going to take a nap, don't wake me up. Her partner can use the app on their own phone, as long as you're sharing your accounts, and they'll know which bottle to feed the baby, or they can be taking the milk and organizing it, putting it in bottles, putting it in bags, and then entering it into the app with just a few clicks. And it all gets organized and tracked in there. So, we're trying to take a lot of the stress off of birthing mothers as well, because it takes a village. And I think delegating is something that's kind of sometimes it feels maybe like too much work because you gotta explain yourself or you gotta explain what to do and you wanna make sure someone gets it right. But this is where the app can step in and say, we can limit how much of you have to actually verbalize. You could take turns sleeping and be on the same page because you'll have your milk tracked on the app together. So you can invite your partners, your parents, grandparents can help out, caregivers, whoever, and you can all see your inventory together and, manage it that way.
Well, Roxy, I love how it is taking like the mental load off of moms and also their partners and family members as well. That is incredible because I feel like it's just that burnout mode that moms can get into. And that was what I was thinking before you said it was about the naps or like you are on a schedule. And if you don't have it saved up, or if you do and you have to explain it. And then by the time you do all that, that you figure everything out, it's like all of that just like adds up to be a lot of volume and how this is just minimizing all of that for new moms. So really, really excited about, again, how this can really help take that mental load off of moms, help prevent burnout. And those postpartum times can be really tough. Even if you don't have postpartum depression or something like that, it can still be really tough. And there's other kinds of conditions and things that moms can be going through, kind of like that mental wear, that sleep deprivation, and all the demands on top of it, which is that overstimulation. So
Mm.
this is really great. I'm wondering, like you're talking about how the app kind of like will figure out the expiration dates. It will let you know like when to do or not do something. And this is really going to help alleviate some of those Google searches and those like second guessing and tired, stressful trying to figure out, wait, did I do this or did I not? Like, I love how it can track all of that. But are there any mistakes that moms or caretakers can make with thawing and freezing milk that they should be aware of that maybe they haven't thought of?
Yeah. So, yeah, as I mentioned, that my son was 2 weeks old when I started working on this, so I was in the throes of it, and I was in that mindset of that very sleep deprived, overwhelmed parent, and so I was like, in designing this app, it has to require minimum taps, has to be so easy and intuitive to use, and, it has to be readable. in the middle of the night. Because I'm like, our audience, they're up at 3 a.m., had 2 hours of sleep, and they've got to be able to use, this tool here. And, with that being said, there are mistakes that you could make. There are a lot of things to remember that you shouldn't do. Like, for instance, you can't refreeze thawed milk. You can't freeze baby formula that you've mixed. So if you're in the app and you're trying to, do that, the app's going to gray out those options and won't make it selectable. So basically, if you fill up a bottle or a bag, what you do is you select what is in that bottle or bag. Is it fresh breast milk? Is it baby formula? Is it thawed breast milk? Are you putting it in a bag or a bottle? And then which location are you putting it in? Are you keeping it at room temperature? Are you putting it in the refrigerator? Are you putting it in the freezer? The things that you shouldn't do will get grayed out. So you can't make the mistake of doing that in the app. So it's just kind of creating an extra layer of protection so that you don't, make those mistakes. And then thawing can get a little bit tricky too. When we hit that mark, when we were like, oh, we have to start using the thawed milk because that the frozen milk will expire. It was like kind of mind blowing to think milk that we had just thawed and put into the refrigerator is going to expire before milk that's been in the refrigerator for like 2 days. And I was like, it all looks the same. How am I supposed to remember that as well? The app, will track the thawed milk while it's thawing. Once it's thawed, it'll say, how long it has either at room temperature or the refrigerator, and then send you reminders to say, hey, this bottle, you're going to have to use it by this time. And then, same with all of your other bottles. So it's just constantly sending you the reminders of when you either got to use that milk or toss it, or if you can move it to another location to extend its shelf life. So, like, it's easy to make a lot of human error, right? And so the app tries to prevent that by just, like, letting you know, these are your options, these are not your options.
Yeah, that's really helpful. And I remember when formula feeding with the bottles for my twins, like if they like put their mouth to it, they drank out of it, then you weren't supposed to like keep it because the babies can't handle it. Like an older kid or toddler, sure, you can stick it back in the
Right.
fridge, they can have it, but with young newborn babies, like you have to be more careful of
Mhm.
bacteria and things like that. And sometimes I just remember being like so sleep deprived. I was like, wait, did he actually sip this or was he sleeping? Because it was two kids at the same
Yeah.
time and it was super confusing. So I think twin moms and moms of multiples are going to also really appreciate that because, sometimes you try to feed the babies at the same time, but some parents, they have their kids on a different schedule even where
Mhm.
like they're napping at different times and it's not always aligned at the same time. We always try to keep ours on the same schedule because I don't know if I could have handled it, but other parents say they did the different schedule because it was the only way they could survive. And maybe one of their children was really colicky or something like that, and they just had to. So, and that can get really confusing. Wait, who was this one for and what, this, that, the other? Like, did they drink out of it or not? Like, did I accidentally put it back in the fridge when I shouldn't have? So, totally feeling all of that for sure.
And that's not to mention so, with baby formula, once the baby sips from baby formula, you have an hour to use it, but that's different than breast milk. With breast milk, you have 2 hours, and it's just like, how am I supposed to remember all of this? So, in the app, if you're gonna feed, your baby a bottle, you would just select the bottle that you've already entered into the app. You're gonna say, "Use," and it'll give you the option whether you start feeding it now or maybe, like, the baby's already started and you're like, "Oh, I'm just getting to the app," a couple minutes later you can retroactively, enter the time, or if the baby already finished, you can retroactively the time, and then it recalculates your expiration. So depending on activities like feeding or moving your milk from one location to another, the app will recalculate the expiration for you. So because it's just, you know, it just it gets too much.
Roxy, your app includes reminders, as we talked about, tracking based on the CDC guidelines. How does that work exactly? Why did you decide to incorporate the official guidelines?
Mhm. Yeah, so I interviewed, a number of pediatric providers and lactation consultants, and everybody with their patients recommends the CDC guidelines. There are other guidelines out there, like the Academy of Breastfeeding Medicine, but everyone was, recommending CDC to their patients, and so I was like, well, that just seemed like an easy answer to incorporate those guidelines into the algorithm. So, based on your inputs, as I mentioned, whether you're saying that you're filling up your bottle or your bag with fresh breast milk, baby formula, or thawed milk, and whether you're keeping it at room temperature, putting it in the fridge, or putting it in the freezer, and then the date and time, which the app will default to the current date and time, but if you need to retroactively change the date and time, you can do that as well. So just based off of those inputs, so like the whole point, like I said, minimal taps. It was just like boom, 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 apply. um, the app calculates how long you have until your bottle or bag expires. So it's just taking those inputs, CDC guidelines, and calculating it. And then again, if you take an action on the bottle or bag, like if you are feeding it to the baby, if you're moving locations, if you're thawing it, it's gonna recalculate it for you and remember all of those things. So you don't have to know what day it is because, like I said, when my kid was newborn, I didn't know what month it was. I mean, he was born in December. You could have told me it was July, and I would have believed you because I was just, like, in our house, and I had no idea what was going on in the rest of the world.
That is really helpful that we have the CDC guidelines included. We can feel confident that it's backed by research and data. And that's also amazing that you interviewed a number of pediatrician and lactation consultants to get their feedback and really make the app the most helpful it can be to new parents. Speaking of parenting, a little shift here. What's one piece of parenting advice you've learned that could be helpful to a new mom or mom to be?
Hmm. So I wonder what my wife would say because I was thinking that this, like, it really this sticks out to me the most is just, like, not being so caught up on doing things just one way. Or, like, if that's your thing, that's your thing, but not to just stress because you heard that, these people or this book says this is how to do it. There's so many different ways to do things and still accomplish the same goal. And I think that came to mind because my wife she would stress out, she had a little bit of postpartum depression, there was anxiety, she was like, but we should do it this way. And I'm like, okay, but if it doesn't happen, it's okay that like other people have done it other ways before, and it's fine. If it doesn't work, we can always go back and tomorrow, try the way that you want it to, or you were planning on it working, it just didn't happen. Agility, I think, is a big thing. But of course, I'm recommending this because I was like seeing it from the other side, and I was like, she'll probably, her parenting advice might be totally different. Like she would probably saw stuff in me that, like, stressed me out that she would say, maybe this or that. So, but I saw how it was almost like I don't wanna say the word crippling, but it caused more anxiety than I wanted her to feel. Or luckily our son was, he did okay, like, we got him bulked up, we got him the milk that he needed, and then, by 3 months, he was, chunky and good. But, yeah, there was, so I don't know if this. I'm, like, kinda going off the deep end here. So my mom's Filipino, and I didn't grow up with, like, many idioms or, like, sayings that, a lot of people knew. So, like, some things that I hear people say I'm hearing them as an adult, like, I never heard them before, and I was getting acupuncture, and, the acupuncturist was like, "Have you ever had acupuncture before?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah," and she asked me, like, what kind of methods they had done on me before, and I was telling her, and she's like, "Oh, there's more than one way to skin a cat," and I was like, "What?" It's like, that's a really morbid thing to say when like, you're about to stick needles in me, and I was like, when you asked me that question, I was gonna say, "There's more than one way to skin a cat," but I was like, "That doesn't sound, like, really cute when you're talking about newborns."
People will remember that though. They'll be like, "There's more way to skin a cat." But like, "Oh, if that parenting strategy doesn't work right now, it's okay. There's more than
Yeah,
one way to skin a cat." I know a
yeah,
lot of the sayings are, like, really, like, morbid and strange, like,
yeah,
it's like kill a bird, kill a bird with one yeah,
yeah,
one stone instead of two or whatever. It's like a lot of them are, like, based off of just like, that's really funny. But also, I just want to say it's okay if you didn't know that either, because it's like, I don't really know anybody who still, like, many people who say that, like, in general. And then when they're like doing something to your body. So that's also on another level. So you're definitely, you're excused from not knowing.
Yeah.
That
My
is so.
parenting advice, if there's more than one way to skin a cat.
There is, and I love your growth mindset too, where you said, like, if it doesn't work today, I know, like, you want things to be this way or to work out or almost, like, be perfect today, but, like, that's one of the biggest lessons of parenting really is, like, yes, do we want it to be a certain way? Sure, but that's often not always what happens, and there's always tomorrow. I love that growth mindset right there, so lots of resiliency coming from you, Roxy. It also reminded me of, what I was gonna say wanting to say earlier about, like, I think as your kids get older, it's hard to remember things, like, from the newborn era because 'cause we're in the toddler era. And, like, with my twins almost being 4, it's like, if I were to have another baby, I'm gonna be, like, I feel like a totally new mom again, like, even just going through, like, the picture, I'm like, I don't know if I remember, like, half of them because I was so sleep deprived, and the thing is, like, yeah, it would be like, I have to relearn, the whole, like, feeding schedule again, like, it's not like it's like, I think about that on a daily basis, I'm more thinking about, tantrums and meltdowns, and I'm thinking about, like, yeah, like, the preschool or so I feel like our minds, like, shift and change with the development of our kids. It's easy to forget all those newborn stages and phases that you go through and the little diapers and all the things, like, that you go through so quickly, and it's like before you know it, like, yeah, they're off bottles and they're eating food, and then they're getting out of diapers, and then they're wearing underwear, and then now they're going to preschool, and now they're doing it's like, so,
Yeah.
like, so even for, veteran moms, it's helpful to have an app like this because, like I said, it's easy to forget these things, and also it would make it easier this time. We'd have some support. We need that village.
Yeah, you're absolutely correct. I mean, so I interviewed a lot of parents while I was developing this concept, and so many people were like, "I just don't remember." And I was like, "There's probably like some science to that, right? It's like one, your brain can only remember so much, so it's gonna have to, nix things that you're not using memory wise." And I was like, maybe just like evolutionary reasons, like your brain is like, don't remember that stuff that was so annoying so that you have more kids and you know?
Yeah, forget the sleep deprivation. Remember the cuteness.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, I think that maybe, my target market here with, Hoopty is those, expecting and new parents, but you don't really know, and I just launched 3 weeks ago, and it might end up being those second time around moms and dads who are like, "Oh, yeah, to the first time, I don't wanna have to remember all that stuff again, so I'm gonna let Hoopty do it this time around."
Yeah, and you might have a mom that, like, for example, like me, that breastfeeding didn't quite work out, or it was starting to work, and then the complications came up, or medical stuff came up, didn't happen, and then now they're really going to be breastfeeding for the first time with
Yeah,
their next baby. So it's like their first experience,
yeah,
and so there's all different stories and situations that can happen. It can feel like a first time experience.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so you are doing so much, right? And that's what us moms do, right? We just do so much. So you're juggling motherhood, entrepreneurship, as you were just talking about your app and how you just were launching it a few weeks ago, and you're caring for you have two senior
2 senior dogs.
so how are you, like, you're doing all these things, like, how are you balancing it all? Do you have any tips for us or advice with that?
It's it's, uh, it's definitely a balancing act. I can't say that I have it down perfectly. The things that there are days when I'm like, "I wish I could have dedicated more time to this versus this." And, if things have to roll into tomorrow or late at night, they just do. So, my things that I stick to every day, unless there's some kind of special exception, but, like, I get my son up in the morning, I'm home for dinner, or making dinner, and I'm in charge of bath time. And then I'm like, most of the time I'm there to like read the story, read the books, and put them to bed. My wife and I do that together. But if I need to dip out a little bit early because I'm like, I didn't get everything done, it's like I finish up bath and I'm like, okay, good night. And then she takes it, solo from there. And with the pups, I usually just have them right at my feet, but they're old, so like sometimes when I'm on calls, like they make these quacking sounds. It's just the noises they make. So I didn't bring them here for the podcast recording, but try to give them love and attention,
Aw.
and they're really patient with our 15-month-old. So yeah, when my son goes to sleep, I'm like, okay, we'll give you extra pets, and you
That's a
were a change.
transition for them too.
Yeah. And then with the running a business, really trying to get it off the ground, it's that's the hard part because my brain doesn't shut off. Although, I'm just constantly thinking like, what do I need to be doing more of? How can I, accomplish this tomorrow or today? So, I think part of it is just like how I'm built. I've kind of never been good at just staying still. Um, Actually, so I live in the city, and we kind of live along a busy street, and you often see the same people walking by, every day, or you run in, and when you may never know their name, but you see them all the time, so you say hi and you have little chit chats. And there's this elderly gentleman, and we always say hi. And he said to me one time, he was like, "Do you not have chairs in your house?" And I was like, "What?" And he was like, "Because you are always on your feet." I was like, and I think, I guess, like, I am just always doing something. So, if it's not one of the things that we mentioned, the being a wife of a mom, a dog mom, or entrepreneur, raking leaves, or picking up trash outside. I'm doing something. So, yeah,
Well, we're lucky part of the thing that you're doing since you're always on your feet is helping other moms and helping take off that mental load. So we are super lucky about that. And that neighbor sounds really funny.
yeah, yeah. He's a hoot.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. Yeah. And yeah, those like I think you mentioned something about when we were talking to each other through chat, you mentioned something about like the founder hours and like for sure, like, like when I started even before I started this podcast, Toddler Toolkit, 6 months before that is when I started my business about 2 something years ago, and I just remember I could not turn off, like, I was, like, obsessed. I think I finally reached the point where I'm like, "Okay, like, I gotta have a little bit more balance of things." It's not that not busy doing things, but doing other things, like getting out to rake the leaves. That's something healthy, like, just,
Yeah,
like, it can be hard. We can get really, like, sucked into things because we want to get that momentum, but it really can be challenging because I feel like, you can be working 40 to 60 plus hours a week on something like this
mhm,
easily, even though you're juggling everything at home as well. And then it's like just like growing with that. So totally feel that, totally know what you're talking about, but I know you're passionate about it and that's what really matters. So could you tell us a little bit more about there's something exciting happening soon. Okay. It's
yeah.
it's a it's a new product. So what is this new product and how is it going to enhance the app experience?
Yeah. Yeah, so technically I beta launched 3 weeks ago, and it just offered the app, free to use, free to download, no product required. But, when I initially developed the Hoopty system, it included a little bit more than that. And so I'm about to launch, some product this summer, and while I'll still have the free app to use and to download, and you won't need product to use it, I am selling some products that, are patent pending, and I will just say, you put them on every single one of your baby bottles, and it will color code your bottles, which enhances your app experience, also just, like, recognizing which bottle is which, and automates the milk management process even more. So I'll keep it at that. My products will be affordable, they're not gonna be some crazy astronomical prices that you'll see. They're gonna be affordable, and, every new parent will be able to benefit from them. Yeah, if you follow us on, at Hoopty, on the socials, or Get Hoopty, that's GETHOOPDEE. You'll see when we announce the new product coming out, and you'll have a better idea of everything. We're on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. Actually, if you go on YouTube now, you can see just really short, easy how-to videos, so you can kind of get a better idea of how the app works and everything. If you're like, before I download another thing onto my phone, let me just see what this thing actually does. Yeah, we just made these fun little videos that show you how you can use it. And the app does a lot more than what I've kind of said on the podcast, but I just want to give everyone kind of a general understanding of what it does. So you can, if you want to deep dive into it, I highly encourage you to do it. And the app is available on iPhone and Android. So you can go to the App Store, you can go to Google Play and download them from there.
Amazing. And I love the idea of the color coding bottle inventory. That's really going to take the confusion and then not having to necessarily label everything. And that's more work. And where did I lost my pen and all of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that will be really helpful. We're excited about about
Yeah,
that.
yeah, so the I
Yeah.
should say the way that, if you're using the complete free version, you do have to write on your bottles the number, whether you're using masking tape or some kind of stickers, and write that on there. With Hoopty Hoops, which is, my flagship product that I'll be launching, you can just keep the hoops on the bottles. You'll never have to take them off. If you want to, you can, but they can go in the wash, they can go in the dishwasher, and, none of that peeling that annoying wet tape off of your bottles, of finding them on your sink or in your bottom of your socks. I was, like, done with that really quick. I was like, "No more."
How did it get in my sock?
Yeah.
Well, that's not the craziest thing that happened today, but it's one thing that happened. Well, that sounds so helpful. Definitely follow Roxy. Her website's gethoopd.com. And as she said, it's at gethoopd on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube with those YouTube tutorials on how to use her app. Thank you so much, Roxy. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before we wrap up and say goodbye to our friends?
No, I hope we, do this again, and, maybe we'll have to do it from our 20th reunion.
Yeah.
We'll meet down in Northern Virginia, and, that would be
Live from
yeah.
20th high school reunion.
Yeah.
Oh my
But thank
goodness.
you so much for having me, and I'm excited to let you know, now that I'm in the toddler zone here, I'm excited to tell you, how the toddler toolkit has been helpful, and, I'll let you know how it all goes with the little guy.
Yeah, keep me posted on how he's doing, and I'll be looking forward to everything that's coming up for you. And I'll definitely be sharing it with all my friends or family members that are introducing a new little one to their family. So I'm definitely going to be spreading the word.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Roxy. And parents, we will see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.